The woods were too quiet for her steps to be hidden. Each time her shoe sank into leaves, he turned his head and snarled like she had struck him. He swayed forward, shoulders bent, one hand wrapped around a dark bottle that never left his mouth for long. She trailed behind, small, careful, but close enough he couldn't say she'd wandered. "Keep up." His words broke in half as he spoke. "I am." "You ain't." Her voice stayed small, flat. "I am." He staggered, lifted the bottle, and drank hard. Liquid spilled down his shirt. He wiped his chin with the back of his hand. "You don't talk back to me." She didn't answer. "You hear?" "Yes." "Say it right." "Yes, sir." He stopped walking. Turned, eyes red, face sagging like clay left too long in the sun. "Don't sound like you mean it." She stared at the dirt between them. "Look at me." She raised her eyes. "There. That's better." He laughed, coughed, spat. "You got your mama's eyes. That's trouble." He moved again, feet heavy, branches cracking under him. She followed. He drank. The bottle glinted with what little light came through the trees. "How long are we walking?" she asked. "As long as I say." "Where are we going?" "Nowhere." "Then why—" He turned too fast, stumbled, and caught himself on a tree. "You shut your mouth." She bit her lip. He leaned close, breath sour. "You think I don't know what you're after? Huh?" She didn't move. "You want me gone, same as the rest. Well, guess what? I'm still here." He shoved off the tree, nearly falling. She trailed behind again, steps lighter, slower. He raised the bottle once more. "You thirsty?" he asked without turning. "No." "You should be. Kids are always thirsty." "I'm not." "It doesn't matter. You don't get none anyway." Silence stretched between them. Leaves whispered under her shoes. His bottle clinked against his teeth. "Are you tired?" he asked. "Yes." "You're weak." "Then." "I'm not weak." "You just said you're tired. I can keep walking." "Not for long." She didn't reply. He stopped again, bent low, hands on his knees. The bottle dangled. He looked back at her, eyes wet but sharp. "You know why your mama left?" She said nothing. "Say it. Say you know." "I don't know." "You do." "I don't." "She left 'cause of you. All that crying, all that needing. She was done with it, done with you." "That's not true." "It is. She told me she loved me." "She lied." "She didn't." "She did." He raised the bottle again, drank so hard he gagged. "World's full of liars." "She was the worst of 'em." The girl's voice trembled but stayed steady enough. "You lie more." He froze. The woods held their breath. He straightened slow, shoulders rising. "What did you say?" "You lie more." His face twisted. "You don't get to say that." She looked at the ground again. "You don't talk about me like that. I'm your father." "You're drunk." He slapped the tree beside him, bark flying. "I ain't drunk." She flinched but didn't run. "You don't know nothing about me," he growled. "Nothing. You just a mouth that won't shut." He lifted the bottle, shook it. "This here, this the only one listening." He tipped it back. Drained the last drops. He stared at the empty glass like it had betrayed him. She whispered, "You said we were going home." He laughed, harsh and broken. "Home? That shack ain't no home. Just walls and rats. Same as you." "I'm not a rat." "You are. Always scurrying, always looking. Can't trust nothing that stares too much." "I wasn't staring." "You were." "I wasn't." "Don't argue me." "I wasn't." He lurched forward, grabbed her shoulder. "You want me to prove it?" She held still, small but stiff. "Let me go." His grip tightened. "Say, please." "No." "Say it." "No." "Say it, or I'll—" The bottle slipped. It hit the ground between them with a dull, final thud. Glass didn't shatter. It rolled once, settled in the dirt. Both stared at it. He let go of her shoulder, stepped back. His hands shook. "Well, there it is." She looked at the bottle. "It's empty." He laughed again, but softer this time, like the air had gone out of him. "Empty, like you, like her, like me." He kicked at the bottle, missed, stumbled. "Ain't worth carrying any more." She bent, picked it up. "Leave it." "No." "I said leave it." "No." He swayed, blinked at her, then waved a hand. "Fine. Keep your prize." She held the bottle against her chest. He turned. started walking deeper into the woods. "Wait," she said. He didn't stop. "Where are you going?" "Nowhere. You can't leave me. Watch me." "You can't." "I can." "I'll tell." "Tell who?" "Sheriff don't care. Neighbors don't care. Nobody cares. You're nothing. You hear me?" Her voice cracked. "I'm not nothing." "You are." "I'm not." "You'll see." He moved farther into the trees, body fading in shadows. She stayed where she was, clutching the bottle, staring at his back. "You'll come back," she said. He didn't answer. "You'll come back." His figure blurred in the dark. "You'll come back." The woods swallowed his shape. She stood alone, small, still. The bottle pressed against her chest. The silence pressed harder. Her lips moved again, quiet, steady. "You'll come back." But no sound returned. Only the hush of leaves. Only the cold weight of glass in her hands. She lowered the bottle, looked at the path ahead, looked back the way they came. Neither side promised anything. She set the bottle down at her feet. For the first time, she didn't follow. The woods stayed silent. The ground held the bottle. The night closed in, and the girl stood still, waiting for nothing. She didn't move at first. The bottle sat by her shoe, catching no light, only dirt. The woods pressed in. Somewhere far off, an owl broke the silence, but she didn't flinch. She kept her arms tight against her chest and her face still. She didn't cry. Minutes stretched into something longer. She listened for steps, for his cursing voice, for the crack of brush that would mean he came back. None came, only the wind-moving branches. So she walked, not fast, not scared, just forward. Every sound her shoes made was too loud, but she didn't slow. She gripped her hands until her nails left half-moons in her palms. Her eyes stayed open, no tears. A branch snapped behind her. She stopped, turned, nothing, just black trees crowding together. She faced forward again and walked. After a while, the smell of smoke touched the air, not sharp like fire, soft like a chimney. Her head lifted. She followed it. Through the trees, a small light grew, a lantern swinging in someone's hand. A woman's voice cut through the dark. "Who's there?" The girl didn't answer. The lantern lifted higher. A face came clear, hard, lined, but steady. A widow's black shawl draped over her shoulders. The woman stopped short when she saw the child. "What are you doing out here?" The girl said nothing. "You lost?" "No." "You belong to someone." She hesitated. "Not anymore." The woman's eyes narrowed. "Where's your father?" "Gone." "Gone where?" "Don't know." "You lying to me?" "No." The woman lowered the lantern a little, studied her. "How long you been walking?" "Don't know." "You cold?" "No." "You hungry?" "Yes." Finally, the widow exhaled through her nose, short and sharp. "Come on, then." The girl didn't move. "You deaf?" I said, "Come on." "Why?" "Because it's dark. Because you'll freeze. Because there's wolves." "I don't hear wolves." "You don't need to. They hear you." The girl looked back into the woods, looked forward again. She stepped closer. The woman turned, started walking, a lantern swinging. "Keep up." "I am." "You better." "I don't go slow." The girl followed. Their steps crunched in rhythm, leaves and twigs breaking. The lantern carved a path of gold through the dark. "You got a name?" the widow asked. "Yes." "You gonna tell me what it is?" She stayed quiet. The woman glanced back. "Fine. Keep your secrets. Don't matter to me." They walked on. "You got a mother?" "No." "Dead." "Left." "Left where?" "Don't know." "You alone with your father then?" "Yes." "Where'd he go?" "He left too." The woman grunted. "Figures." Silence hung. The girl's shoes scuffed rocks, steady, never dragging. After a while, the trees thinned. A small house rose from the dark. Leaning but standing, smoke curling from its chimney. The lantern light met the glow of the hearth inside. The woman pushed the door open. In. The girl stepped over the threshold. Heat met her face, sharp after the cold. The air smelled of wood ash and boiled beans. "Sit." The widow pointed to a chair at a table scarred with knife marks. The girl sat. The woman set the lantern down, moved to the stove, ladled beans into a bowl, set it in front of the child. "Eat." The girl lifted the spoon, slow but sure. Ate without looking up. The widow leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching. You ain't gonna cry? No. Most kids would. I'm not most. Don't you miss him? No. You hate him? No. Then what? The girl swallowed another spoonful. He's gone. The widow's eyes narrowed again. You don't feel nothing about that? The girl kept eating. The woman shook her head. Strangest child I ever seen. Silence filled the room, only the scrape of the spoon, the soft hiss of fire. After a while, the widow said, You know who I am? No. Don't matter. Folks call me widow. That's enough. The girl nodded once. You think you can stay here? I don't know. You got somewhere else? No. Then you stay. But you follow my rules. What rules? You eat when I say. You work when I say. You don't talk back. I don't talk much anyway. That's fine. The widow's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. That's real fine. The girl finished the bowl, set it down. She folded her hands on the table, still not crying, still steady. The widow studied her again, long and hard. What's wrong with you? Nothing. You sure? Yes. You look like you've been hollowed out. I'm not. You're something. I'll figure what. The girl didn't answer. The widow turned, stirred the pot, muttered low. Ain't right, a child like you. The girl spoke, voice small but clear. You gonna keep me? The woman froze, spoon in hand. Well? The girl asked. The widow turned, eyes sharp. I didn't say that. You said I could stay. For now. For how long? Till I change my mind. Will you? Maybe. The girl leaned back in the chair. I don't care. You should. I don't. The widow set the spoon down, came closer, leaned on the table. You're a strange little thing. The girl met her eyes. So are you. Silence again. The fire popped. Outside, the wind touched the eaves. The widow stood straight. Bed's in the corner. You take it. Don't wake me in the night. The girl looked to the corner, saw the small cot under a patched quilt. She rose, walked over, lay down. The widow blew out the lantern. Only the fire glowed now, soft against the walls. The girl pulled the quilt up to her chin. She still didn't cry. The widow watched her from the table. Finally, she said, Quiet. Lord help me. I think you might be mine now. The girl's eyes closed. Her voice drifted, steady. I'm not anyone's. The fire cracked, then settled. The house fell quiet, and for the first night, the girl slept without dreaming. The next morning came slow, gray through the window. The fire had died down, but the room held the heat. The girl woke without sound. No whimper, no stretch, just eyes open, already watching. The widow was at the stove, stirring something thick in a dented pot. The girl sat up. The widow didn't turn. You sleep quiet. I always do. Good. I don't like noise. The girl stepped off the cot, bare feet touching cold floor. She walked to the table, saw 2 plates laid out, one full, one turned upside down. She pointed. That one for me? No. Why's it there then? Habit. The girl pulled out the chair in front of the full plate, sat, looked at the food, grits maybe, no meat. She took the spoon. Wait, the widow said. The girl froze. You ask first. For what? For what's not yours. I didn't think I had to. You do here. The girl stared at the spoon, then at the widow. Can I eat? You may. The girl dug in. Ate slow. Not cautious. Practiced. She didn't spill, didn't speak. The widow sat across from her, arms folded, eyes sharp. You ain't got manners, she said. I'm not rude. You didn't say thank you. The girl stopped chewing. Thank you. Too late now. Sorry. Don't lie. You're not sorry. I said it. Saying ain't meaning. The girl kept eating. You always talk this much. Only when someone's sitting at that plate. You said it wasn't mine. It ain't. Then why talk to me like it is? The widow leaned back in the chair. You're a mouthy little thing. You said no lying. They stared at each other across the table. The widow broke first. You got kin? The girl shook her head. Not anymore. Where'd they go? They were never much around. Dead? Some. Which ones? I don't know. You sure about that? No. You always speak like this. Like what? Flat, like a saw cut through you clean. I don't try to. Then why's it come out that way? The girl shrugged. Where'd you learn to eat quiet? You learn fast when you get hit for chewing wrong. The widow didn't blink. That your father? The girl kept her eyes on the plate. You don't have to say it. I already did. You didn't cry when you got here. No. You still ain't. I don't want to. Good. Why good? Crying don't change nothing. Just fills the air. The girl wiped her mouth with her hand. Do I have to clean something now? No. I can. You will, but not today. Why not? You don't owe me yet. The girl looked around the room. The walls were bare, but held weight. The air smelled like smoke and old bread. Why's that plate turned over? She asked. Because the one who used it don't come to breakfast anymore. Where'd they go? Same place yours did. The girl nodded. You don't ask who he was? No. Why not? 'Cause it's yours, not mine. The widow tilted her head just slightly. You're sharp. I know. You cold? No. You lie better than most men I know. I try not to lie. Try harder. The girl pushed the empty bowl toward the center of the table. It was good. Say thank you. Thank you. Mean it? Yes. All right then. The widow stood, cleared the bowl, scraped what little was left into the fire. The girl stayed in her seat. Eyes on the flames. You believe in God? The widow asked. No. You scared of him? No. You should be. Why? He don't like girls who don't cry. I'm not scared of him. Good. He don't like fear either. The widow wiped her hands on her apron. There's chores, but not now. Today, you rest. I don't like resting. Then sit still and pretend. The girl nodded. Okay. The widow leaned on the table. You're going to ask me something soon. What? Whatever's been sitting behind your teeth since you walked in. The girl paused. Why'd you help me? There it is. Well? The widow looked at her long. You walked out of them trees like someone I lost once. Same look, same shoes, same quiet. What happened to her? She didn't get found. Will she? No. The girl nodded. You understand what that means? The widow asked. Yes. What's it mean? Some people don't come back. That's right. The fire popped again. The girl stood, went to it. Don't get too close, the widow warned. I won't. You burn yourself. I don't nurse it. Okay. She sat cross-legged on the floor, watching the flames. The widow sat back down at the table, turned the second plate over again. The motion was quiet, final. She didn't say why. And the girl didn't ask. The girl was hanging laundry when the hoofbeats came. Slow, deliberate, not rushed, but not lazy either. The kind of sound made when a man wanted to be heard before he was seen. She didn't turn, just pinned the last shirt and stepped back, eyes on the line swaying in the wind. The widow came out from the barn, wiping her hands on a rag. She squinted into the sun. He rode up with a half smile and a silver star that didn't shine like it used to. Mud on his boots, whiskey in his grin. Morning, he said. Is it? The widow asked. Could be. Then say what you came to say. He dismounted slow, like it pained him. Heard you got company. You heard wrong. He looked past her. The girl hadn't moved. She was standing by the laundry, eyes sharp. He tipped his hat to her like she was grown. That her. Don't know who you mean, the widow said. The child. Not yours. Didn't say she was. Then why ask? Because her daddy's name's on more than one ledger in this county, and debt don't vanish just 'cause a man does. The widow folded her arms. You come all this way for money? I come when it's owed. Funny, I remember when you came for worse. He smiled, not kindly. That a threat? That a memory? He looked at the girl again. What's she know? Enough. Name? She don't answer to you. She will if I make her. You won't. He took a step closer. You hiding her. She's not hidden. She's in plain sight. Then she's under your roof. She is. Means she's your burden. Means she's my choice. Didn't think you were in the habit of taking in strays. Didn't think you were in the habit of checking in without drink on your breath." His jaw twitched. He turned to the girl. "What's your name?" She didn't blink. "I don't have one. Everyone's got a name. Not me." "You run from your father?" "He ran first. You see where he went?" "No." "You lying?" "No." "You sure?" "Yes." The widow stepped between them. "She's done answering. I ain't done asking." "Well, I'm done listening." The sheriff looked past her again. "You know the law?" "I know it bends." "You think I bend it?" "I think it's bent where you stand." He let that hang in the air. Then he turned and looked at the barn. "You still keep that rifle above the door." "Try me." He didn't. "Girl deserves to be processed," he said. "Filed, named, counted. She's not a cow. She's not yours either. She is now. That ain't how it works. It is here. You're defying order. I'm defying you." He stepped closer, lowered his voice. "You forget who I am." "I remember too well." "You want trouble?" "No, but I'm not scared of it either." "You sheltering a runaway." "I'm keeping a child warm." "You think I won't write this up?" "Write all you want. Paper don't bleed." "You mouth off too much." "You show up too late." He turned again to the girl. "You scared of me?" She said, "No." "You should be." "I'm not." "You think she's safe here?" he asked the widow. "She's safer than she was." "You can't protect her from everything." "She don't need everything, just enough." The sheriff sighed and looked back at his horse. "You always were difficult. You always were weak." He paused, like that word hit harder than it should have. Then he climbed back in the saddle, slower this time. "You keep her, she's yours," he said, "but don't come crying when it falls apart." "I won't cry," the widow said. "That's her father's gift. She don't do that no more." He nodded once sharp. "This don't fix anything. It wasn't meant to." He rode off without looking back. The dust didn't settle for a long time. The widow watched the trail until he was gone. Then she turned to the girl. "You all right?" "Yes." "You scared?" "No." "You should be." "I'm not." "Good." The girl stepped off the porch. "Why'd he come?" "Because your father owed." "Owed what?" "Whiskey, wood, blood." "Did he pay?" "Never." The girl stared at the spot where the sheriff's horse had stood. "You told him I was yours." "I did." "Why?" "Because you are." "You mean that?" The widow didn't blink. "Yes." "You think he'll come back?" "Maybe." "You think he'll take me?" "No." "How you know?" "Because I won't let him." The girl nodded. "He looked at me like I was dirt." "You're not." "He talked like I didn't matter." "You do." "He's the law." "He's a man in a badge." "What if he brings more?" "Then we'll feed them, or shoot them. Depends how they ask." The girl smiled for the first time, just a flicker. "You hungry?" the widow asked. "Yes." "Then help me with supper." The girl followed her into the house. The widow pulled down a pan, lit the stove. The girl brought the sack of potatoes from under the counter. "Slice 'em thin," the widow said. The girl worked slow but careful. The widow stirred beans in the pot. "He's not the last one who'll come," the girl said. "No." "You worried?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I've lost worse than men like him." They cooked in silence, fire crackling, knife tapping wood. The girl said, "You think I'll have to leave?" "You stay till you're done staying." "What if I never leave?" "Then I'll die with someone to feed." The girl said nothing. She dropped the slices into the pan, watched them sizzle. Later they sat at the table. This time 2 plates were turned up, 2 forks. No questions. The girl reached for salt. "You believe what he said?" the widow asked. "No." "Good. I don't believe much of anything anymore." "That's all right." "Why?" "Because believing don't always keep you warm." The girl nodded, took a bite, swallowed slow. "You think he'll write it down?" she asked. "He might." "Will it matter?" "Not if we burn the page." They ate in quiet again. No more talk, no more law. Just the sound of 2 plates being used. Just the warmth of a house that chose who it let in. And outside, the sheriff rode into night, his ledger still open, but already starting to smear. The knock came after sundown. One time, Then twice more, slow, heavy, the kind of knock that didn't ask. It announced. The widow looked up from the hearth. The girl froze mid-step with a bucket in her hands. No one knocked out here unless they wanted something they had no right to. The widow stood, quiet, reached for the handle with no fear, just memory. She opened the door with her left hand. Right one stayed low, near her side. He stood tall, broad, dust on his boots, coat faded, face unreadable. He didn't tip his hat, didn't smile. "Evenin'," he said. "It's night." He nodded once. "I heard you got someone under your roof." "Maybe. Small, doesn't talk much. Sounds familiar. I ain't here for trouble." "Good. 'Cause I don't serve it warm." He stepped back half a foot, respectful. "You the widow. You see anyone else?" His eyes moved past her, into the dark of the room, landed on the girl. She didn't flinch, just stared back. Same way she'd stared at the sheriff. Same way she'd stared at the fire when her name had no place to sit. The cowboy said, "She's his. She's mine now." "I figured. What do you want?" "Not food." "Good. I only cook enough for who I trust." He looked at the girl again. "She all right?" "She eats. She sleeps. She answers when it matters." He shifted his weight. "He left her in the woods." "I know. I was 2 days behind him. Saw his boot prints, then just hers." "Did you follow hers?" "Till I lost them." "She didn't cry. Didn't expect her to. Why are you here?" He looked at the widow full now, "To see if you plan to keep her." "I already did." "That a fact?" "That's a law." He stepped closer to the threshold, didn't cross it. "You got food?" "You said you didn't want any." "Didn't say I was hungry." "Then what?" "Just making sure you got what she needs. She's warm, she's fed, she's got shoes. She got a name. She's working on it." "Fair." The girl set the bucket down, walked to the doorway, stopped behind the widow. He looked at her again. "You remember me?" She stared long, then nodded. "You were at the fence." "Yeah." "You gave him the rope." "I did." The widow glanced between them. "You helped her father." "Once, before I knew." "Why follow him now?" "To undo it." The girl tilted her head. "You knew he left me?" "I hoped he wouldn't." "But he did." "I know." She stepped beside the widow. "Why do you care now?" "'Cause I don't sleep right when I leave things broken." The widow crossed her arms. "You here to take her?" "No." "You sure?" "Yes." "Then why knock?" "'Cause I don't like ghosts." "This ain't a ghost house." "Felt like one when I got close." The girl said, "It used to be." The widow didn't argue. He took off his hat, held it in both hands. "I came to say I saw what he did. I didn't stop it. That's mine to carry." "And?" the widow asked. "And I wanted her to know I won't pretend different." The girl said, "Most men do." "I ain't most." "No." The widow said, "You're quiet, and you don't smell like sweat and fear." "I washed." She almost smiled. "Almost." The girl stepped onto the porch. The boards creaked. "You have a place?" "I do." "Alone?" "For now." "You ever raise a girl?" "No." "You want to?" "I don't know." The widow stepped in front of the girl. "Don't answer that." He raised his chin. "I ain't here to take her." "Then why keep looking at her like she's yours?" "'Cause I looked away once." The silence after that was thick as steam from the pot. The widow breathed in slow. "She don't belong to nobody." "I know." "She belongs to herself." "She ought to." "Then don't ask again." "I won't." The girl looked up at him. "You got a horse?" "Yeah." "What's its name?" "Smoke." "Why?" "Disappears when you're not looking." "Like my daddy did." He didn't reply. The widow said, "What do you want from us?" "Nothing." "Men like you don't show up empty." "I do." "Now." The widow stepped aside. "You want coffee?" He hesitated. "Only if it's strong." "It is." She turned, walked inside. The girl followed. He stepped in last, hat still in hand. The table was set with one turn plate and two right side up. He noticed, didn't ask. The widow poured from the tin pot, set the cup down. He sat. The girl stayed standing. "Where's your gun?" the widow asked. "On the horse." "You trust us?" "No." Good. He took a sip. Winced. Strong. I told you. The girl asked, You think my father's coming back? No. Good. You scared he will? No. You hope he does? No. The widow sat, crossed her legs. You want to work for food? I could. You fix fences? Yes. Chop wood? Every day. Sleep on floor? Done worse. The girl said, What would you do if he came back? Stand in front of you. She nodded. Okay. The widow tapped her fingers on the table. What do you get out of this? Nothing. That scares me. It should. Why help? Because someone should have. She leaned forward. You break anything in this house, I'll know before you do it. I believe that. The girl said, You staying? He looked at the widow. She said, For now. He nodded. All right. The girl turned, sat at the table, third plate still upside down. She reached over, turned it face up. The widow saw it, didn't stop her. No one said anything. Outside, the wind rose. Boards creaked. The lantern hissed low. But inside, 3 plates sat ready. Coffee steamed. And a man with nothing to offer finally stayed quiet. The girl carried the hatchet with both hands. The blade was dull. The handle split near the grip, but it worked. The cowboy had shown her how to angle the swing. Don't chop, fold, he'd said. Wood breaks better when it's tired. She was working alone behind the barn when she saw it. A rise in the earth that didn't look natural. No stones, no cross. But the dirt sat different, like someone had pressed it down with care. She set the hatchet against the stump, walked closer. The grass around it was trimmed shorter than the rest. A single glass marble sat in the dirt, green and cloudy. Nothing else. She knelt beside it, touched the ground with her palm. Behind her, boots crunched over dry leaves. The widow's voice was low. You found it. The girl didn't move. What is it? A grave. Whose? The widow stepped beside her. Mine. The girl looked up. You buried yourself? No. She paused. He was mine. Your husband? My boy. The girl looked back at the dirt. How old? 3. The girl didn't speak for a long time. The widow said, You gonna ask how? The girl nodded once. He coughed, then didn't stop. Doctors? We had one. What did he say? He said I was poor. The girl's jaw tightened. That's not an answer. It was his. Did he die fast? No. The wind moved through the trees. I came back from the well, the widow said, and he was laid out by the door, like he crawled there. The girl asked, What did you do? I screamed once, then stopped. That all? I held him till the sun came down. The girl looked back at the marble. Why's that there? He liked it. Rolled it in his hands every night. No name on the grave? No one asked it. The girl stood. What was it? Samuel. The girl said it under her breath. Samuel. The widow didn't correct her. The girl asked, You ever talk to him now? No. Why not? Because I still hear him. The girl looked at the dirt again. I don't remember my mother's voice. Good. Why? Because remembering don't soften anything. I want to. The widow shook her head. You want what's gone. That never ends well. The girl crossed her arms. You could have marked it. I did. With what? Silence. The girl looked down at her feet. I'm sorry. Don't be. It's sad. Sad is soft. This ain't. The cowboy's voice came from the barn door. Everything all right? They both turned. He took one look at the grave and didn't step closer. Just took off his hat. The widow said, She found it. He nodded. Figured she would. The girl said, You knew? I helped carry the stone before it sank. The girl blinked. You were here? No. But I came after, and I saw what the town didn't. The widow's eyes narrowed. You say that like it's something. It was. You think memory helps? No. Then why speak it? So she don't think she's the only one who sees. The widow looked back at the dirt. You ever lost a child? No. Then don't pretend you know. I ain't pretending. The girl looked at him. You ever lose someone? Yes. Who? Doesn't matter. It does to me. He paused. My brother. The girl nodded. What happened? He fell asleep with a rifle in his lap. Didn't wake up. Why? No one came for him. The widow said, "Same story, different names." The girl asked, "You gonna bury me if I die here?" The widow answered first. "Yes." The cowboy added, "You won't." "You sure?" "Yes. Even if the sheriff comes?" "We'll bury him first." The girl smiled. The widow turned toward the house. "Come in when you're ready." She left without another word. The girl stayed. The cowboy didn't move. The girl looked at him. "You really would?" "What? Bury him?" "Yes." She walked toward the grave again, picked up the marble, held it in her palm, then set it back, exactly where it was. She whispered, "I won't forget him." The cowboy said, "That's kind." "It's not kindness. It's truth." He nodded. "He'd like you." "I like him." "You didn't know him." "I don't need to." The cowboy said, "That's rare." "What is?" "Feeling something that ain't yours." She said, "It is now." They stood in silence. The wind moved again. The grave didn't shift. She said, "I think he wants me to stay." The cowboy said, "Then you should." She nodded, picked up the hatchet, looked once more at the marble. "I'll trim around it tomorrow," she said. "You don't have to." "I want to." She walked past him toward the house. The cowboy looked at the dirt a moment longer. Then he turned, followed her inside. The grave stayed quiet. No name, no stone. But someone had seen it now. Someone had said his name, and that was enough for the night. It started with the dog barking, once, then twice, low and uncertain, the kind of bark meant for something that already smelled wrong. The widow opened the door halfway. The cowboy was already on the porch, rifle across his lap, eyes narrowed toward the road. Dust stirred behind the trees. Not wind, not wheels, just two boots dragging and a body swaying like a man too drunk to finish falling. The girl watched from the hallway, silent, still. The widow didn't move. The cowboy stood. "It's him." "I know," the widow said. He came into view a moment later. Her father. Same coat, same sagging frame, same bottle swinging from his hand. But his eyes were different now. Not wild, hollow. He stopped at the edge of the yard, looked up at the house, took another drink. Then he shouted, "You got something that's mine." No one answered. He staggered forward. "You hear me? She's mine." The widow stepped onto the porch. The cowboy stayed beside her. She said, calm, clear, "You're trespassing. She's my blood. She's not your property. She's my girl." She was. He pointed. "You can't just take her. She walked. She's a child. She's safer here." "You don't get to say that." The cowboy said, "You should leave." The man laughed, wet and broken. "You think I'm scared of a fence post in a hat?" The cowboy didn't blink. "No, I think you're too dumb to be scared." The girl stepped further back into the house, her breath shallow, her fingers tight around the wall edge. The father shouted again, "You think this fixes anything? You think feeding her means you get to keep her?" "No," the widow said, "but you don't. She's mine by law. You broke that law when you left her in the dirt. You got no right. She's got the right. She chose. I didn't sign nothing. She didn't either. She just walked away." The cowboy stepped down from the porch, slow, measured. "You should leave now." "I'll leave with her." "No, you won't." The father's hand went to his belt. Clumsy, slow. The cowboy raised his rifle halfway. The widow's voice cut through. "Try it, and I'll bury you next to the boy behind this house." The man froze. His fingers hovered over nothing. No weapon, no plan. Just instinct and anger. "I raised her," he said. "No," the girl said. They all turned. She stood in the doorway now. Her voice didn't shake. "I raised me." He stared at her. "You don't get to talk to me that way. I ain't yours. You're my daughter. I was. Now I'm not. You don't get to choose that." "I just did." Silence cut the air in half. The widow said, "You heard her." The cowboy lowered the rifle a little. Not much. The father's eyes darted from the girl to the man to the woman. He looked older now, smaller. "I came all this way," he muttered. "No one asked you to," the girl said. He took a step forward. The cowboy raised the rifle again. Last step, he said. The man's knees wobbled. He stopped. He looked at the girl again. You really hate me that much? She shook her head. I don't feel nothing for you. That hurt more than anything else. He looked down. His boot kicked at a rock. He muttered, You were just a baby. She said, I'm not anymore. He looked back up at her. You gonna tell people I hit you? She didn't answer. You gonna lie about me? She still didn't speak. He pointed again. They'll believe me. I'll say you ran off. Say you made it up. The widow said, No one's listening. He turned toward her. You think you're better than me? I know I am. Why? Because I didn't walk away. He stared at her. Then at the cowboy. Then at the girl. He dropped the bottle. It hit the dirt and didn't break. Just rolled a little, like it had nowhere to go either. He turned around, started walking. No one followed. No one called after him. The girl stepped down from the porch, walked to the bottle, picked it up. She held it in her hand a moment, then poured the rest out into the dirt. The cowboy asked, You all right? She nodded. Yeah. The widow asked, You want to say anything else to him? She shook her head. I already did. The cowboy said, He'll try again. Let him, the widow said. We're not moving. The girl looked up at them both. Can I stay? The widow said, You already are. She nodded. The cowboy said, You want help cutting wood? She said, Not yet. The widow turned toward the house. Supper's burning. They all walked back together. Behind them, the bottle lay in the dirt, empty, like the man who dropped it. It started with smoke, not from the chimney, too sharp, too fast, too bitter. The girl smelled it first. She was setting plates on the table when she stopped, sniffed the air, turned toward the window. Widow, she said. The woman looked up from the stove, saw the girl's face, didn't ask questions. They both moved to the door. The sky behind the orchard glowed orange, not sun, not sunset. The widow stepped out onto the porch. The wind carried it now, thick, ugly, real. She said one word, buckets. The girl was already running. They rounded the back of the house, past the coop, past the barn. Fire leapt from tree to tree, like it had a purpose. The orchard hissed like it was alive. The widow shouted, Start at the left edge. Cut it off before it hits the fence. The girl dragged the first bucket from the well. No pause, no fear, just motion. The widow tossed water at the nearest trunk, but it wasn't enough. The flames licked higher, mocking. The girl asked, How did it start? The widow didn't look at her. You already know. A noise came from the trees. Hooves. The cowboy rode in hard, coat half-buttoned, rifle strapped, jaw tight. He dismounted before the horse stopped moving. You good? He asked. No, the widow said. All right. He took the bucket from the girl, dumped it, filled another. He didn't ask where to throw it. He just moved. The flames had jumped a row now. Apples fell to the dirt, black and steaming. The widow cursed under her breath. Took me 6 years to get 'em to bear. The cowboy said, We'll save what we can. The girl poured water over the low brush. Sparks hissed. They're doing this to scare us. The widow answered, Then they better burn the whole sky. A voice called out from beyond the flames, Still think you can keep her? The widow stopped mid-throw. She turned toward the trees, squinted. A figure stood at the edge of the firelight, shadowed but clear. The father. Beside him, 2 men held torches. Laughing, the cowboy raised his rifle. The widow touched his arm. Not yet. Her voice carried across the orchard. You light one more tree. I swear by the dirt under your boots, I'll plant you where it falls. He laughed. That a threat, widow? That's a fact. He stepped back, grinning. One of the men tossed his torch anyway. It landed on a low branch. Caught fast. The cowboy aimed, fired. The torchman's hat flew clean off his head. He stumbled back, screaming. Not hurt, just scared. The second man ran. The father stayed. You'll regret this, he said. The girl stepped forward. Not yet, but maybe someday. Just not today. The father flinched. The widow shouted, Go home, coward. I ain't scared of you. You will be, when the fire dies down and you see what's left. He stood there a moment longer, then turned, disappeared into the dark. The flames kept rising. The cowboy said, We need more water. The girl nodded. I'll run faster. They worked without talking. The widow's shawl caught once. She tore it off and stomped it down. The girl burned her wrist on a branch. Didn't cry. Just hissed, wiped it with dirt, kept going. The cowboy wrapped his coat around a trunk and beat the flames back. The trees groaned. Bark split. By the time the sun began to rise, only smoke remained. The orchard smoldered. Blackened rose. Fallen fruit. One half-burned boot by the fence. The girl sat in the dirt, breathing hard. The cowboy crouched beside her. "You all right?" She nodded. "Just tired." "Good." The widow walked between the trees, her hands streaked with ash. She stopped at a stump and stared down. The girl rose, walked to her. "What was here?" The widow didn't answer at first, then said, "The first tree I planted after Samuel died." The girl looked at the charred base. It was strong. It was his. The girl didn't speak. The cowboy approached. "We'll replant." The widow shook her head. "No." "You sure?" "I'll dig it out myself, but I won't put another in." "Why not?" "Because grief don't need repeating." The girl touched her burned wrist. "Some things grow back." The widow looked at her, long, quiet, then said, "You're right." They walked back to the house, slow. The orchard behind them was wounded, but still standing. The wind shifted, carried the last of the smoke toward the road. The cowboy paused at the porch, looked out. "They'll try again," he said. "I know," the widow replied. "They're scared of you." "They should be." The girl sat on the steps, laid her head on her knees. The widow asked, "You hurt?" "Not bad." "You scared?" "No." "You tired?" "Yes." The widow reached down, pulled her close. The cowboy leaned against the post. Fire didn't take her. "No," the widow said. "It lit her up." The girl said nothing, but she didn't cry. The smoke still clung to them, not just their clothes, their skin, their mouths, their silence. The widow poured water from the tin kettle. Her hand shook once, then steadied. The table was set, though one plate had a burn mark from where she'd dropped a coal bucket hours earlier. The cowboy sat across from her, no coat now, sleeves rolled, face streaked with soot. The girl stood by the window, watching the orchard breathe in the dark. No one spoke for a while, then the girl turned. "You staying?" The cowboy looked at her, didn't answer. Instead, he reached down, took off his hat, turned it once in his hands, then set it on the empty chair beside him. The girl nodded once. "Okay." The widow didn't blink, just poured his cup full. Set it down without looking at him. He took a sip, winced. "Still strong." She said, "Good." The girl sat between them, not centered, just close enough to both. Outside, the orchard hissed in the wind, char fading from the bark. The widow asked, "You sleep at all?" The cowboy shook his head. "Didn't need to." "You will." "I know." She passed a plate his way. Bread, salt, a slice of apple that somehow didn't burn. He took it without a word. The girl said, "I dreamed of fire." The widow asked, "Last night?" "No. Before. Days ago." "What kind?" "This kind." No one responded. She looked at the cowboy. "Did you dream too?" He nodded. "I dreamt she'd find me." The widow raised an eyebrow. "Find who?" He didn't answer. The girl said, "He means me." The widow turned back to her cup. "Then he better get used to her fire." The girl smiled. The cowboy reached for another slice of bread, broke it in half, laid one piece on the plate in front of the girl. "You sure?" she asked. He nodded. "Okay." She took it, ate slow. The widow folded her hands. "Folks'll talk." "They already do," he said. "They'll talk louder now." "Let 'em." The girl said, "You mean about the fire?" The widow said, "No, about this." She gestured to the table, the chairs, the shared silence. The girl asked, "You mean like marriage?" No one answered. She looked at the cowboy. "Is it?" He met her eyes, said nothing. She looked at the widow. "Is it?" The woman looked down, picked up a knife, cut a pear into 4 pieces. "It don't have to be named," she said, "just held." The girl nodded like she understood. Then softly, "What do I call you now?" The widow paused. "What you've been calling me." "But if he's staying," the cowboy said, "names don't fix things." The girl looked at him. Then why do people marry at all? He shrugged. So they know someone will be there when they fall. The girl sat back. I don't fall. The widow said, Good. Then you can hold us both up. They all smiled a little. The wind knocked something outside, a shutter or a loose board. None of them moved. The widow said, You know what this means? The cowboy said, I'm not leaving. The girl asked, Even if the sheriff comes? Especially then. Even if he brings others? I got enough bullets. The widow said, And if he brings papers? The cowboy looked at her. You burn 'em. She nodded. All right. They ate slow, nothing fancy. Bread, pears, one egg between them. The girl looked around the room. Feels different now. The widow asked, How? Quieter, but not empty. The cowboy said, Some silences are good. The widow leaned back. Some are sacred. The girl reached for the last bit of bread. This one's safe. No one corrected her. Later, the girl cleared the plates. The widow poured one last cup of coffee. The cowboy didn't stop her. They didn't speak for a while. Then the girl said, You need help with the fence? The cowboy said, You offering? She nodded. He looked to the widow. The woman said, Go on then. Learn to build something no one can burn. The girl grabbed her boots. The cowboy stood, picked up his hat from the chair, looked at it, then set it back down again. Didn't put it on. Just walked out after the girl. The widow watched them through the window. The way they moved, not quite together, not apart. She touched the tabletop. The cup he drank from. The knife she used, then stood. Walked to the door. Didn't close it, didn't lock it. Just let the breeze in. And for once, it didn't feel like a warning. The barn smelled of dust and rope, old hay, dry wood, something else, like judgment waiting. The widow dragged the last chair into place. They were all mismatched, some splintered. One was just a crate, but they made a circle. The girl sat in the corner, quiet, watching. The cowboy leaned against the far wall. Arms crossed, not speaking. He wasn't part of the circle, that was clear. The widow stood in the center. You come. One by one they had. Mothers, daughters, women with hands like bark, aprons stained, boots still caked from the fields. They didn't ask questions. They just sat down. When the last woman settled, the widow turned to the doorway. Bring him. Two of the women stepped outside. The girl tensed. The cowboy looked at her. You don't have to speak. She shook her head. I want to. They dragged him in by the arms. Not chained, not beaten, just held. Her father stumbled when they let go. Looked around the circle. Saw no sheriff. No badge, just women. What the hell is this? The widow said, It's your trial. He laughed. You got no right. We got more than you ever did. You ain't a judge. No. You ain't law. We're something older. He turned in place, eyes landing on the girl. You serious? She met his stare. Sit down, he snorted. You think you can talk to me like that? I know I can. The widow pointed to the crate. Sit. He didn't move. The cowboy took one step off the wall. The man sat. The widow folded her arms. Name. He rolled his eyes. You know who I am. We want to hear you say it. Why? Because the dead deserve names. He looked at her. Confused. What dead? The girl said, Me. He turned to her. You're alive. Not when you left. He looked down. Another woman spoke. How old was she when you hit her? He didn't answer. Answer the question. 7, maybe. A different voice. Why? Because she mouthed off. Another. How often? I don't know. When she needed it. The circle sat still. No one flinched. The widow asked, You think she needed it that day in the woods? He swallowed. I was drunk. That an excuse? No. You left her to die? I didn't mean to. You think meaning changes it? I came back. Too late. He looked at the girl. You believe I came back for you? No. You believe I cared? No. He exhaled hard. Well, I did. She said, Then why'd you hit me? He didn't answer. Why'd you call me names? Still nothing. Why'd you never bring food? I didn't have much. You had drink. He looked away. The widow stepped closer. You want to be forgiven? No. Good. You won't be. One of the women leaned forward. You ever change a diaper? No. Fetch a fever rag? No. Rock a child through the night? No. Then what did you do? I worked. Where? Here, there. You mean nowhere. He clenched his jaw. I tried. You failed. The circle breathed like one body. The girl stood. Can I speak now? The widow nodded. She walked to the center, faced him. When I was small, she said, I used to ask you where Mama went. He didn't look at her. You always said she left because of me. Still nothing. I believed it for a while. She stepped closer. Then I realized it wasn't about me. It was about you. He rubbed his face. You broke her. Same way you tried to break me. He looked up. I didn't mean to. You still did. I didn't know better. You still did. I was angry. You still did. He said, What do you want me to say? She said, Nothing. Just listen. He blinked fast. His shoulders slumped. She said, I'm not yours. He nodded once. You lost me. I know. Say it. I lost you. She turned to the circle. That's all I needed. She walked back to her seat, sat tall. The widow looked around the room. Anyone else got questions? No one spoke. She turned to the man. You can go now. He blinked. That's it. Yes. You're not going to kill me? No. You're not going to turn me in? No. Then what is this? Your ending. He stood slow. You think this means something? It already does. He looked at the girl one last time. She didn't look back. He walked out. Alone. No one followed. The women sat in silence. Then the widow said, Anyone want coffee? Half the room nodded. They stood, stretched, laughed a little. The girl looked at the chair he'd left behind. Empty now. The cowboy walked up. You all right? She nodded. Yeah. He rested a hand on her shoulder. You did good. She said, We did better. The widow passed her a tin cup. Next time you testify, you'll have more than bread in your stomach. The girl took the cup. There won't be a next time. The widow smiled. Good. They sat in the barn as the sun cracked open the roof boards. The trial was done. The sentence was memory. And memory would never forget. The trial ended with no verdict, but something final still hung in the air. They didn't speak of it the next day. Not at breakfast, not during chores, not when the widow scrubbed blood from the barn floor, though no one had bled. By noon, the girl was gone from the house. The cowboy followed, slow, without asking. She stood at the edge of the orchard where the fire hadn't reached. A tree still whole, bark thick, shade wide. She held a knife. You sure? He asked. She didn't look at him. You said things don't count till they're carved. I said that? You did. He nodded once. All right then. She touched the bark with her fingers first, then the blade. The cowboy leaned on the trunk beside her. You want help? I don't know how to spell it. Which one? The first. He waited. She said, He never told me how to write it. The cowboy took the knife, held it firm. Say it. She hesitated. So, maybe. He scratched a wide curve into the wood. Then H. Another stroke. She watched, slow, careful. R, I think. Or maybe L. I'm not sure anymore. That's all right, she whispered. I don't even know if it was mine. He looked at her. You want it to be? No. Then let it go. She nodded. He stepped back. The carved letters weren't neat, but they were real. She took the knife again, faced the other side of the tree. This one's mine. What is it? She didn't answer right away, then said, Whatever I choose. He smiled. That's a better start. She carved slow, letters sharp, pausing after each one. J, she said. He raised a brow. Why that? I heard it in a story once. She was brave. He nodded. Next came U. Short, he said. Better to carry. When she was done, it read, June. She stepped back, looked at it. He asked, That it? For now. He said, It fits. Maybe. The widow's voice came from behind them. It's a name. They turned. She stood a few feet off, arms crossed, not angry, just tight, like she hadn't decided how she felt about it. The girl asked, You don't like it. I didn't say that. You don't believe in names? I've buried too many. The girl touched the bark. This one won't be buried. The widow came closer, touched the letters gently. Samuel's name is under the dirt, not on it. I can fix that, the girl said. No, the widow whispered. He didn't ask for it, but you did. The girl turned. Is that what this is? What? Me asking to be kept. The widow didn't speak. The cowboy said, You already were. The widow looked at him. She carved it. That means something. The girl stepped between them. Names ain't enough. No, the widow said, but they're all we got. The cowboy leaned against the tree. Some folks get written in books. Some get carved into wood. Some get forgotten. The girl looked down. I don't want to be forgotten. You won't, the widow said. You sure? Yes. How do you know? Because I'll say your name when you're not there. The girl blinked. Every day? No, just the ones that matter. The cowboy asked, You want it on the house too? No, the girl said. This is better. He touched the other side of the tree. You want me to strike out the old one? She shook her head. Let it rot. The widow sat on a stump nearby. First time I saw you, you didn't cry. I didn't need to. Now you do. I still don't. The widow said, That name ain't for me. It's for you. The girl looked at her. You gonna use it? The widow said, If you answer to it. I will. Then I will. They sat under the tree for a while. No words, just names soaking into bark. Eventually the girl stood. She wiped her hands on her dress. I want to dig up his name too. The widow didn't ask who. She said, All right. The cowboy said, I'll get the spade. The girl said, I'll carry it myself. The widow stood. I'll come with you. They walked slow, back toward the grave behind the barn. The tree stood still, 2 names on its trunk, one fading, one fresh, neither perfect, but both real. The sheriff came back on a Thursday, late morning, dust trailing behind him like he meant to be seen, meant to be heard. This time he didn't come alone. 2 deputies rode with him, one younger, nervous, the other with a face that looked carved out of fence post. Neither carried kindness. The girl saw them first. She stood at the fence patching a splintered post, didn't run, didn't warn. She just turned, walked toward the house. They're back, she said. The widow didn't ask who. She wiped her hands, stepped out onto the porch. The cowboy met her at the door, rifle slung, calm. The sheriff dismounted first, straightened his belt, adjusted his star. You know why I'm here. No, the widow said, but I expect you'll tell me. He looked toward the girl. She's still here. She's still safe. That ain't the law. That ain't your concern. He stepped closer. The younger deputy followed, uncertain. The older one stayed by the horses. You defied process, the sheriff said. You ignored petition. You harbored a child without writ or consent. I gave her food. You gave her a name. She chose it. You claimed her. She claimed us. The sheriff pulled out a folded paper. This here's a removal order. The cowboy shifted. Signed by who? County seal. That seal's worth less than mud out here. Careful, boy. I'm not a boy. The sheriff looked between them. You think you're above order? We're under no one, the widow said. He stepped up to the porch. Close now. I got the right to take her. No, the girl said, stepping out from behind them. You don't. He stared at her. You don't decide that. I do. You're a minor. I'm more than I was. You're not legal. I'm alive. He blinked. You think that's enough? It's more than you gave me. The widow said, She doesn't go. He held out the paper. This says different. She didn't take it. He looked to the deputies. Take her. The younger one hesitated. Sir, do it. The cowboy unhooked his rifle, didn't raise it, just held it loose. The older deputy dismounted. You sure about this? He asked the sheriff. I gave the order. I see a house, the deputy said, not a threat. The sheriff's jaw clenched. Don't make me say it twice. The widow said, You make one move toward that girl, and I promise, this place won't fall quiet again. The girl stepped forward. You don't get to drag me nowhere. Not anymore. The sheriff raised his voice. You think this is a democracy? No, the widow said. It's a home. The wind shifted. Then came the sound. Footsteps. Dozens. From behind the trees, across the field, up the dirt path, they came. Women. The same ones from the barn. And more. Aprons tied, sleeves rolled, eyes steady. They stood behind the fence, silent. The girl turned, saw them. Her chest rose. The sheriff saw them too. This your jury now? No, the widow said. This is the verdict. He looked around. This ain't how the law works. The cowboy said. Maybe it should be. You're threatening an officer. No, the widow said. We're reminding you what power really looks like. He looked at the girl. You're making a mistake, she said. Then let me. He turned back to the deputies. Last chance. The younger one shook his head. I won't touch her. The older one said nothing, just got back on his horse. The sheriff cursed, crumpled the paper, threw it in the dirt. This ain't over, the widow said. Yes, it is. He mounted slow, glared at the girl. You'll regret this. No, she said. You will. He turned his horse, spurred it hard. The other two followed. The dust swallowed them. The women didn't move until the trail cleared. Then slowly, one by one, they left. No words, just nods. The girl stood still, not shaking, not smiling, just steady. The widow touched her shoulder. You all right? Yes. The cowboy said, You sure? She turned to them. Can I laugh now? They looked at her. Then she laughed. Short, loud, raw. Like a sound trapped too long in her ribs. The widow laughed next, then the cowboy, quiet, like a hum. They stood on the porch, smoke long gone, dust settled, and for the first time, it sounded like a home. Inside, the table waited, 3 plates, one turned up for good. The fire had been out for hours, but the coals still breathed under ash. The room was dim, windows open, letting in the kind of silence that didn't creep or threaten. It settled. The girl sat between them, one hand on the table, one wrapped around her cup. She didn't drink. She didn't need to. The cowboy carved a small notch into the arm of his chair. Just one. No name, no date, just Mark. The widow moved slower now, not from age, but from relief, like her body didn't have to guard every step. No one spoke, and still, everything felt said. Outside, the trees didn't rustle. The orchard stood in black outlines. The fence didn't creak. The girl leaned back, legs crossed beneath her. You ever get tired of noise? The widow said. Been tired of it all my life. The cowboy said, Some kinds, not this kind. The girl looked between them. This isn't noise. No, the widow said. This is peace. The girl nodded. It's strange. The cowboy asked, What is? Hearing nothing and not feeling scared. The widow reached for a match, lit the lamp low. That's what safety sounds like. The girl whispered, I thought it would feel different. It will, the widow said, over time. They didn't fill the space with comfort. No stories, no preaching, just quiet. The girl stood, walked to the window, opened it a little wider. Wind touched her cheek. She smiled. The cowboy said, You still waiting for something? No, she said. I'm listening for what's gone. He nodded. Smart. The widow walked to the stove, stirred what was left in the pot. Hungry? No, the girl said. You sure? Yes. You'll eat anyway. All right. The cowboy smiled without showing teeth. She's learning. Fast, the widow said. The girl sat again, pulled her chair in close. What happens now? The widow shrugged. We wake up, feed the chickens, patch the roof. That's it. That's everything, the cowboy said. You thought it'd be fireworks? No, she said. I just thought it'd feel more finished. It's not finished, the widow said. It's begun. The girl traced a ring in the table's grain. The sheriff won't come back. He might. What will we do? Same thing we did last time. Stand still. Together. The girl nodded, then said, I think I'd like to plant something. The widow looked up. Where? Beside Samuel. The cowboy raised his head. What kind of thing? I don't know yet. Something that doesn't burn easy. The widow nodded. We'll dig it tomorrow. They sat a while longer. The girl asked, "You ever think about leaving?" "No," the widow said. "Why not?" "Because the world out there don't need me. But this place does." The cowboy said, "I left once." "Why'd you come back?" "Because I saw something worth staying for." The girl looked at him. "Me?" He didn't blink. "Yeah." The widow stirred the pot once more. "It's cooling fast." The girl stood, took 3 bowls from the shelf, set them down without a word. The cowboy ladled stew. The widow passed the bread. They ate in silence, not the haunted kind, the kind earned over fire and time. The girl asked, "What'll we be in 10 years?" "Alive," the widow said. The cowboy said, "Still eating stew, probably." The girl laughed, not loud, not sharp, just steady. The wind knocked once at the door, not hard, not urgent, just once. No one moved. The widow said, "You gonna get that?" The girl said, "No." "Why not?" "Because I don't need to open what don't belong to us." The widow smiled. "You're learning." They finished eating, washed the bowls, left the lamp low. The girl curled up in the corner chair, pulled the blanket over her knees. "Can I sleep here tonight?" "You can sleep wherever you feel safe," the widow said. "I feel safe here." "Then stay." The cowboy stoked the coals, shut the stove, sat back down without speaking. The girl closed her eyes. The widow whispered, "You warm enough?" "Yes." "Good." The room went still again. Outside the woods stayed silent, but inside the house held what had been broken, held what had been lost, held them all without question. And in that stillness, no vows, no badges, no blood, there was peace, not from forgetting, but from choosing to remember and staying anyway.